All right, guys, so we got some breaking news here for you. Well, actually, I don't know how breaking this is going to be by the time it hits YouTube, but apparently Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was just assaulted in his home at 2:30 a.m. The attacker was looking for Nancy Pelosi and said something to that effect.
Said, like, where's Nancy? According to reports.
So he was basically attacked with a hammer, and I read on Twitter that he's getting brain surgery. I don't know how true that is, because I've also seen he's expected to make a full recovery.
Wow.
And if you're getting brain surgery, I don't know if they could be so sure you're going to make a full recovery, So I'm not 100% sure on the brain surgery thing, but he was attacked with a hammer. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. So I guess, Crystal, the main question that everybody's going to be, talking about in the midst of this happening is, like, to what extent do you blame, the heated rhetoric, the constant shitting on Pelosi or whatever for this attack? Because, you have to make a distinction, right, between substantive criticism that's accurate and fair. Because, Nancy Pelosi, when she's now worth what? Their family's worth over like $100 million. And there's been a lot of insider trading going on and a lot of corruption with the Pelosi family where, they're cashing in on that insider information. I don't even think that's speculative at this point. I think it's pretty much proven. She had the famous thing talking about, what was her line? Oh, we're a free market economy and we can participate in that, when basically they were told, like, hey, is it really okay for you guys to be trading stocks as, like, all the insider information? I guess that's my question for you is, like, do you file this under the category of, like, it's terrible? It is kind of a one-off, though, because, every now and then an attack happens. Like, the right is going to, of course, bring up Steve Scalise getting shot by a guy who ended up being a supporter of Bernie Sanders. Or do you view this as, like, it's actually kind of endemic to the nature of the attacks that are coming from the right?
Here's what I would say. No one is ultimately responsible for this attack other than the dude who will
the guy who did it. Certainly legally that's the case.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if you are a commentator, creator, personality, whatever, you do have a responsibility to be accurate in the things that you say. And to be clear also that you do not support any sort of violence. You and I have both been very critical of Nancy Pelosi. Sagar and I have talked a lot about the stock trading ban, about her and her husband's insider trading, about the fact that she, essentially made it so that the stock trading ban that they had put up in the House was designed to fail. All of those things are totally fair for criticism and debate. And none of this should be used as a justification to quash any, like, legitimate criticism of the speaker. So I guess that's just the way I think about it. Ultimately, this dude, whether he is, like, an extremist, whether he's an extremist and he's mentally ill, whether he's just mentally ill, whatever, he's responsible for his actions. But that doesn't mean that people who are commenting in the space are, like, just washed of any sort of responsibility to think about the way that they're covering politics.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, I think the reaction is going to be an argument from the left or the Democratic side of, like, see, this is what happens when you guys, shit on somebody 24/7. It leads to stuff like this. I think that's going to be an argument the left makes. And then the argument the right makes will be very, like, this is definitely a one-off event. You cannot extrapolate anything from this. And, hey, remember Steve Scalise and the Bernie Sanders supporter? And I think that'll be like the dialogue.
Yeah.
I do think, and I don't know if this is controversial. It's almost inappropriate to say at a time like this, but I feel like it's an accurate point, so I want to make it. I actually do think it'll help the Democrats in the midterms. Like, I sincerely believe that, because every now and then there's sort of like a stark reminder that there's a very extremist fringe on the far right, which has sort of taken over the base of the party. And, like, every now and then you'd be reminded when you watch, like, a January 6th hearing and you see, how these idiots fell in line and went full authoritarian to appease their daddy, Emperor Donald Trump. That, like, I think the average American see that and they're like, Jesus Christ. Or when Roe vs. Wade got overturned, it's like, whoa, like, even if somebody's moderate or they lean right, they're thinking, I didn't fucking sign up for this, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Do you think it'll have that effect or no?
Potentially. Yeah, potentially. I mean, to the extent that any one-off event has an impact, I would think that it would serve as... The other thing is, like, Pelosi is maybe the most common villain in Republican attack ads, has been for a long time, in spite of everything they say about the left and AOC and whatever. No, it's Pelosi is...
And for good reason, I think.
Pelosi is the emblem of out-of-touch, elitist Democratic Party. Like, she is the representative of that. And so she's long been one of the most effective villains for Republicans in their attack ads, tying ex-candidate to Nancy Pelosi, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll make it so that they can't really run those ads right now.
Right, yeah.
So they might have to pull some of their more effective attack ads, lay off a little bit of, like, the most heated rhetoric around Pelosi and the Democrats. And so, yeah, that's a hindrance to them.
And let me ask you, is it a one-off event? Or do you think we're going to start seeing a lot more stuff like this? Because I do think it's fair to say there is increasing extremism.
I mean, I think we're already seeing more political violence. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You know, when you think about...
But do you think, like, high-profile politicians or their family members
targeted?
will continue?
I think we're already seeing that, too. I mean, we had, a Supreme Court justice who Kavanaugh was...
Somebody attempted,
targeted.
But that was nipped in the bud.
Yeah, but, I mean, you know, all of these lawmakers are receiving a lot of threats. January 6th, I mean, part of it, they were running around like, let's hang Mike Pence and let's find Nancy.
Yeah.
So you can count that in it as well. So I honestly think we're already seeing that. We've got a country that's coming apart.
Yeah, and by the way, this guy was just drowning in extremist content.
Yeah, apparently
online. He was all in on January 6th.
Oh, really? I didn't see.
Well, yeah, it's the standard, exactly what you'd expect, like COVID, denialism stuff, you know, all in on, like, conspiracy theories around January 6th. I don't know if it was, like, blaming Antifa or whatever the fuck, but apparently he was very deep into that world of, like, you know, fringe content online. And I do hope, though, that this won't lead to, like, a round of people saying, well, we gotta like censor more stuff on YouTube. Yeah, that would be not good, because there's always way more innocence in the crosshairs.
Or to say that it was unfair to criticize Pelosi over anything, because this is one of the most powerful people in the country. Of course.
I think that's true. I do think though, intelligent people can and should always add the caveat of, like, we mean non-violently. You respond, because there are people who they're sort of borderline and they'll...
Well, and also the criticism should be legitimate.
Of course, yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be like they're the QAnon, like they're drinking baby's blood or whatever. You know, God only knows what conspiracies they have about Pelosi that are out there that are just completely unhinged.
Yeah, by the way, Crystal and I are watching that documentary on QAnon. What is that? What is it, on Hulu or Amazon?
What is it called? Into the Storm? Is that what it's called? Enter the Storm?
Something
anyway,
like that. It's a 6-part QAnon thing, and it's really
very
interesting.
The documentarian does an excellent job.
Yeah, we're only, 2 or 3 episodes in, but it's been good so far. But I think that's a great point, because, yeah, there's almost, I really think it's a fine line between, like, reasonable criticism and you're a fucking psychopath. Because, like, if you talk about Jeffrey Epstein and, like, there's an elite cabal of people who engage in pedophilia, that's factually accurate.
Right.
But once you get to, like, and they're drinking the blood of children, and they're all Jews, and you know what I'm saying?
Or,
then
like,
it's like,
for
whoa!
example, we had a former CIA agent on Breaking Points talking about his theory that JFK was assassinated by rogue CIA agents.
That's the most commonly accepted, like, this shit is, it's definitely a conspiracy shit. I think it's over 50% of Americans in a poll.
A majority
of
Americans do not buy the official
narrative. I'm not buying that. That's crazy
because
shit.
It's a pack of lies, obviously. So
anyway, all right. So Paul Pelosi in the hospital, hopefully expected to make a full recovery. We'll see, but you know, I mean, that's a big deal, man. Speaker of the House's husband.
Well, there's one other thing I want to say, which I'm surprised they don't have more security.
That's a great point. Yeah, I thought the same thing when I first read the headlines.
She travels everywhere with the security detail. They said he came in through a sliding glass door or something like that. Apparently where her residence is like well known in the heart of San Francisco in one of those sort of toniest neighborhoods. But I'm surprised they didn't have any security there on the scene. They had to call in the local cops to save Paul, because he was trying to fight this guy off. They were engaged in a struggle when the police arrived.
I would be willing to bet there's at least a 50% chance now of some bill passing Congress which grants Secret Service support to other high-ranking legislative officials. So, I mean, they have it for the president. For some former presidents accept it, some don't. But I'm sure they're going to add it to.
Didn't they just up security for Supreme Court justices?
They did for good reason, because of the Kavanaugh thing, right?
Right.
So I bet they add this now too. And you see, when they actually want to do something, they leap into fucking action. We've seen it all with Ukraine, right?
True.
They can't fix the water in Jackson, Mississippi, but, you know, immediately. You want another $10 billion, Ukraine? Ah, we got a call coming in. We love you guys. Bye.